Hi, I'm Sophie,
Hi, I'm Paul,
and we are SP Film Viewers.
and today's film we're going to be talking about, well, we're not really supposed to talk about it.
That's the first rule, isn't it?
Exactly.
And the second rule?
Is.
Don't talk about it.
But we have to. Otherwise, it wouldn't be much of a review.
That's true.
Of course, Fight Club.
Obviously, we went in blind with this.
Yeah, you said, based on the title, you thought it was something to do with, like, Tekken or Street Fighter or something.
Yeah, because it's like Fight Club, that was what made me think of it. And initially, maybe a good half an hour, you're like, where does the title even come into the film?
Build up.
Yeah, so it's like it didn't really twig to what was happening at first.
So it starts with what is essentially the end of the film, before we revert back to the actual start of the film.
I thought also linked in with, like when they say people putting these like little bits in the film, it was on about like how you have like an old film reel.
Yeah.
And you can insert like, it was like a porn, wasn't it? Or something like that they inserted into a child's film. Yeah. And I was thinking somewhat cleverly worked with linking that back in my head. That's how I noticed it. It was that, which I thought was quite weird because obviously this guy seemed to not really have that many issues initially, like the main character, which you still don't know his name.
No, he's just called the narrator.
Which is a bit bizarre.
Yeah, I found it was tricky to think that you can go through a whole film and not have a character name.
Especially your main character, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like, fair enough if it's like somebody that's just passing in the street, you'd probably, they shouldn't have a name. But like your main character to not even really know his name.
No, you have to be clever writing to make that work, which David Fincher tends to do with his films.
It was really a good film, and I don't know really what I expected. And a little bit at the beginning, I was like, I don't understand what I'm watching. It only about 15 minutes in, and he's going to all these groups, and he's like, I'm thinking, well, you haven't really got cancer, you haven't got anything actually wrong with you, you just can't go to sleep. So why are you attending these clubs to make yourself feel better and cry? It's like, why can't you cry? And I would have loved to understood more of why he had to do that. Like, why couldn't he sleep?
Yeah.
What was troubling him?
Yeah, it is like one of those tricky situations where, like, actual mental health issues and things, you can never get really truly into the psyche of what drives them to do how they are, so to speak. So it's kind of a tricky thing to say, like, oh, why can't you just go to sleep? It's maybe not as easy as that.
Like, or what is causing you to be not asleep? Is there something on your mind, or I don't know. There obviously is, for him to have to attend like a cancer club that everybody's going through something a lot worse in life, really. And it's not like he's just going to one club, he's going to like 6 of them.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't understand. And I was feeling a bit like not sorry for him. I was like thinking, actually, his self-worth must be like a rock bottom. But then I was thinking of him a bit horrible as well, because it's like, well, you're preying on the vulnerable a little bit.
He is.
And it's like you're kind of getting your kicks and you're off people who are actually worse off than you, so to speak. Like they're comforting you when really they're worse off than you are. But obviously the crying helps him go to sleep. And it was like a freedom kind of thing for him. Until he meets Marla, who is Bellatrix from Harry Potter. She always plays these weird, kooky characters, doesn't she? I've never seen her actually in a normal role.
Helena Bonham Carter, yeah, she's in most like Tim Burton films.
And the hair's always all over the shop and not tidy. And it makes you think, like, it epitomises her. And it's like, I don't even know actually what she's like in normal life. But, like when you've got like Adam Sandler, who always plays the comedy jovial. So when you put him in like, what was it?
Uncut Gems.
Then you're like, what the heck is he actually trying to do? He's like trying to act, and it's just strange to see him in that role.
Yeah, I kind of get what you mean. Some people, a bit like Jack Black.
Yeah, when he was in
King Kong,
I was like, I'm not sure how this is going to work unless he's quite comical.
Certain people you kind of have that persona about them.
Yeah. So like, I think she's got that with her. She's a bit kooky, wacky. Yeah. Like, you probably haven't seen the Harry Potter with her in.
I think a little bit.
Anyways, so he meets Marla, at these clubs, and actually she ruins it for him because she is doing exactly the same thing as he's doing, and for some reason then he can't cry, he can't enjoy his clubs. So you can kind of see that it's getting him down and he has to speak to her, and they kind of split the groups up and have like take it in turns of what groups they'll go to and shared nights and such, and they share each other's number. So I'm thinking, obviously in my head there was like, okay, it's gonna be like a love-hate thing. It's like Marmite, like they're gonna hate one another at one point and then love one another.
But it's kind of predictable in that sense, isn't it? Because you always have that kind of, oh, I hate that person, but then you grow to love them.
You didn't do that with me, did you?
No, I didn't hate you.
Yeah. So
Wouldn't have bothered.
Thanks.
You if I didn't.
So you could see kind of signs where he's like, you could see these little bits in like popping up, and
by that you mean in the film frames themselves. There's like a blink and you miss.
Yeah, like dust or
stills.
like if you were in like an old film, you see
like
it's
the film grain. Yeah.
But it's not. It's something else because it's more like a light burst kind of popping out of nowhere. And at the beginning, the title's like a bit, and it's like Never Been Kissed shows up, and I'm like, hey, what's?
To explain that for people, because that was on the Blu-ray disc that we've got them. I don't know if people have got the same thing when they play it on theirs or whatever version they might have, but that's what it comes up to subverse your expectation when you put in the disc in thinking, oh wait, is this the right film?
Yeah, I was like, oh what? I don't want to be watching Never Been Kissed, and then it's like moves and then like the apartments.
The film grain
flitting in.
The cigarette burn thing comes on and
Yeah. So it gets to a point where you realise like he's basically on a plane, he's literally just doing his job. That's literally his life, isn't it? And then he buys some nice IKEA furniture and then he goes on another plane. And is it corporate like business trips?
Yeah.
There's like all these certain people that are on these planes and they're all the same and and you can see like it flitting like at that point where like his head and his real self is like not truly there. So you can see like there's this like missile or bomb or something coming from the side of where he's envisioning the plane going to blow up.
And the plane crashing. Yeah, so I think he's just because he's so tired and just he's messing with his head. It kind of like, oh, I just want the plane to crash, and it's like.
I want that to just be peaceful then, kind of thing, because I won't have to be so tired.
Dealing with all this nonsense.
And then Brad Pitt arrives, and you don't actually see him getting off a plane. You see him kind of having this moment, and then he's sat next to another person. So it's like, is he flitted from talking to one person, or is this now in his head? And I said to you,
this is about 25 minutes in now or something now, and you kind of asked that question, you're kind of thinking, is he in his head? And I feel like I couldn't say no, because that's the whole premise behind the film. So
you're so kind of like, are you actually kidding me?
That you've got that when there's been times when you've gone, oh, I didn't know that guy was the baddie, or something like that, sort of in a much more simple film, and yet the whole film is based around this whole twist, and you've kind of like cracked the code on
in like 25 minutes. Now, to be fair on me, I hadn't Googled anything about it, but we have been watching quite a bit in depth, kind of.
Unintentionally, I guess we have been sort of Shutter Island and King of Comedy and Joker, and just have from other things that we've seen. But I guess it was subconsciously been picking things that seem to have that about them.
Don't get me wrong, I really, really enjoyed it. But I think because he was in his brain and I'd seen so many others, I was just like, is this going to be like the same kind of thing where... And I could see like he was talking to this Tyler.
Yeah.
And obviously this Tyler's gorgeous, he's got like a six-pack, he's, completely the opposite.
You got the colour of his outfit as well as a complete contrast to what he's like. He's grey.
Yeah. So he's a complete opposite person, personality, persona, everything's about him. And it kind of is normally, like, I also said to you, didn't we? We paused it at this point and you were just looking at me like, I can't believe this. And I went, is that like what he wants himself to be? and you were like, are you actually kidding me? And I wish I could have said, actually, I googled it and I just went to the toilet and had a look, but I actually didn't. It was just because it was somewhat obvious the way that they'd kind of done it, in a sense, like you wanting your best version of yourself and to be out there and like looking great, speaking confident, and not having a care in the world kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of think that Tyler is his like egotistic name, like it's his ego kind of coming out in him. So you don't actually figure out what his actual name is. I don't think Tyler is his actual.
No, it's not. It's just he's just come up with this name out of the blue, I guess.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I don't know where. But that's never explained.
What's it called now?
But
Tyler.
of course it wouldn't really be because of Tyler Durden.
And it even sounds like a like Taylor Swift is coming on the stage kind of thing.
Yeah, like a really like Max Steel or something. Yeah, like a really fake name.
Yeah, but it sounds like a celebrity name. Like it should be up in lights or something like that. It doesn't sound like just Joe Blogs or something like that, does it?
Yeah. Mundane name, so it's good to have this more powerful sounding.
Yeah, it's like kind of out there, isn't it? So I won't go into too much details, but obviously his apartment blows up.
Yeah, no, I say we won't go into too much because obviously, there's no point going through the whole.
Because it's like a 2-hour movie.
And because Sophie had already tricked on ending by this, or how it. Well. The twist at this point, then it was kind of like, okay, right.
I still didn't know how what Fight Club was going to be though.
Yeah, so no, true.
I didn't understand.
Yeah, so, but I said to you, didn't I? Like, okay, now you know that. Just see, like, watching the film now, just see where you can see at what points the narrator and Tyler are like intersecting them.
Yeah.
That kind of.
And I know this sounds daft. I actually got more enjoyment knowing that earlier.
Yeah.
So that I could look out for that, because I think had I felt like in Shutter Island, I did feel a bit betrayed. I know that sounds daft. I felt like somebody had kind of manipulated my perception a little bit. And it was like, and I was genuinely believing that guy was innocent. And I was like, what? And I sat, I hated it because it was like my head was like kind of hurting, and I was like, I don't even know what to think. Whereas with this one, it's like I'd already clocked it, I knew.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that horrible feeling at the end of being so naive and stupid that I didn't realise.
I'm not slagging off with though you didn't understand that one, but you understand this one, not.
No, but I'm meaning for my enjoyment.
Right.
I wasn't like feeling like I'd been tricked again.
Okay, right, okay.
Believing something was true and then it wasn't. So I think my A game had kind of levelled up a little bit with my knowledge of what I'd seen previously. And I was like, I'm not going to get fooled again.
Okay.
I know what's going on here. This is too obvious. Probably isn't, really. But I think because maybe if we'd have left it a little bit, I might have been naive again.
But do you think part of it was maybe because you said like on the title screen where it's got the never been kissed and doing that weird transition, you saw a glimpse of Tyler there.
Yeah.
And then obviously like because I'm Guy foolishly went because managed to frame by frame the shot where it's going the blink and you miss it thing, and there's like and then you do see a little picture of
he popped up to me and I'm like But I initially thought there was something obviously wrong with his state of mind.
Yeah, which there is.
Yeah, but I didn't know how bad it was going to get.
No.
So I did think there was obviously he had issues and he couldn't sleep, and obviously I thought it was more like a low self-esteem thing with Tyler being there and him acting. So I thought it might be like the king of comedy a little bit, like he was acting like, which so to speak he is, but you see two characters.
Yeah, much more aggressively different.
Yeah. So it's like the confidence side of like the king of comedy when he tries to force himself and like, this is my life, and he's believing that this is his life. That is kind of happening within this, but you've got like the split personalities. Yeah. So that's how I see it. It's more like,
and a more visual way of portraying that as well, rather than just
the same person. Yeah. They end up, his apartment blows up, doesn't it? So then he ends up going to move in with Tyler. And where Tyler lives is like this old derelict building that doesn't have functioning proper water, and it kind of makes me feel like he actually has found this empty building.
That's what it'll be, yeah, because it's like because of the fact that there's no address of where he could physically live because he's not real. So that's why they're in this. You're thinking, why is he living in this van shack? Yeah.
Yeah, when you look like that, you're all glamorous, you've got like this lovely clothes. It's like, well, where are you getting them washed? Because obviously you haven't got clean water in this property.
Yeah.
And so that was like a little bit like, this is a bit weird. And then it made me actually think, well, actually, he's slumming it really, isn't he? He's kind of just found this is basically squatting really in this old derelict building.
Yeah.
So before we actually get to that though, we see where Tyler says hit me to, well, himself really.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a fight within himself with the split personality. So it's like fighting to try and see which personality is going to take over.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if you first were watching that, you just see that they were fighting each other. You wouldn't really think it was him fighting. The same person. They're fighting themselves. And obviously, there's this bar that they go to, and basically a couple of guys come out, don't they, seeing him fighting, but he's actually fighting himself to them.
Yeah.
But you don't get to see that. But technically, that's where they would be seeing, isn't it? Where it's like they're... So
yeah, he's watching scrap with himself, trying to punch.
Yeah.
And throw himself on the floor and all that stuff. And
then somehow, with the perception of Tyler...
Yeah, because like, you imagine they'll come over and like, what are you doing, what's going on here? And then the persona of Tyler being confident and saying all this, then it'd be like explaining what he's kind of doing, even though the fact that he's the narrator who's actually the body of talking is. Right.
It's quite confusing, really. Yeah. It can be. So
that's why I thought it'd be good for you to see, like, if you pick up on how things go within this thing. And even I've seen this very many times, and I'm now trying to like analysing like how, at what points where things cross over, and what point he's actually the narrator and when he's Tyler, so to speak. Yeah.
And that makes it more interesting even more. Yeah. Like, it was quite late when we watched this film, and sometimes I can have a tendency to be like, if I'm not intrigued in the film, I can doze off. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm so tired. I know with Fight Club and Shutter Island, I was literally glued to the telly, wasn't I?
Yeah.
I didn't really say much. I was just like, really, really like wanting to know where it went on. Mm-hmm. So Marla does ring saying, why are you not attending the clubs? Because she cheated and went to one of his nights and he wasn't there. And he said he'd got something better, which is this Fight Club.
Yeah.
I can't watch. So it is an 18, this film is.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of boxing. I'm not a big fan of fighting or anything really aggressive.
Yeah.
So the fighting bit, for me, this is when I wrote my notes mostly.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I I'm just going to write what I need to do and what I need to jog my memory. Avoid this, because it was just like, it was a bit gory.
Brutal, yeah.
Yeah.
Gets its deserving 18 certificate for this, yeah.
It's just like, I just don't get the concept of Fight Club. Because it's like, I understand, like, exercise for me is like a relief and stress relief, and I understand that punching somebody might be, but I just think the brutality of it overweighs that a bit for me.
I guess it's sort of set in a universe where everyone's, like, wants a relief from the mundane, everyday kind of toil that is their lives, and they're obviously not content with, just the materialistic thing that life has to offer, or
they don't have any other meaning in life.
So that they need to get their relief out is to make them feel better, as fighting. Obviously, this is not really the case in our normal lives, but
like, I don't know.
No,
but I think it's an
adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas some people, to go skydiving or whatever, but
I want to go every Saturday and punch somebody's face in. For me, I'm like, I'd rather not see this part. It's probably for somebody who's like in a bit of action and stuff like that, or boxing or something. But I was like, I don't really like it. I understand the concept behind it, but I was just like, oh, it's just, there was one scene further on, and it was just like a bit of Game of Thrones for me, like where it's just gory, too much. So I would kind of put my head down and be like, I'll put my book in front of my face. I'm like, I'm not going to watch these bits. The rest of it, though, was brilliant. So, ends up that you kind of have the story unravelling with Marla and Tyler.
Yeah.
And then, like, the narrator kind of no-name guy is, like, the child in between the mum and dad's bad romantic relationship.
Because, as I say, you never see them in the same
room together.
Because of the fact
Tyler doesn't exist. Yeah. And basically Tyler says, don't talk to her about me. And it's like, well, you're having sex. Why can't I speak to her about you if you're,
Yeah.
So it's like, that was kind of a bit of a clue.
Yeah.
I think if I hadn't figured it out then, maybe I'd have figured it out
at that point.
Yeah.
Because, the times when he says, like, oh, what are you doing here, kind of thing, and then she kind of just, like, storms off. It's never, like, really resolved. It's kind of just like, oh, I'll just forget it. I'll just...
Yeah, because she's got her own problems, hasn't she?
Yeah,
and
so she's not
it's
really...
like, I don't need this now.
Yeah. Rather than... So that's another way of dragging the whole...
And it's a bad relationship, isn't it? Because Tyler seems to enjoy kind of sleeping with her, and obviously flirtation sides to it. And then the no-name guy despises her. So it's like literally like Marmite.
Love and hate,
relationship. It's toxic.
Yeah.
So he's seeming to then be Fight Club is all he is thinking of. It's in his blood. That's all his main focus is, and his work is now getting affected with that. He's turning up with cuts and bruises, and to be honest, any working establishment would be like, why the hell are you turning up looking like that every week?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to hire somebody who was like having a bust nose every week. It's like, well, what are you dealing in there? I've also put here that I don't know if you agree. Probably don't. I was really, really struggling to understand sometimes what Brad Pitt was saying.
No, I get what you mean, yeah.
Because he always had...
a bit mumbly and having a cigarette in his mouth. And
yeah, it just didn't help. He's like...
I think it's his accent as well.
In his proper mouth, was it? It was like just hanging around.
Hi.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. So I kept on saying to you, what's he saying?
I feel like he needs subtitles.
Yeah, just for him. Like, I get he's a cool kind of character, but the subtitles definitely might be a must. Oh, there was another scene I've put down here, which I did feel a bit... I was like...
Oh, yeah, they're getting the fat for the soap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's like people who are obese and they've had, like... Is it lipo?
Yeah, that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And it was just like... And you could see in passing this, like, stuff, and then the bag was starting to rip, and I'm like, bleh, bleh. Yeah. That's somebody else's body, and I'm thinking, oh, especially with everything going on nowadays, that is definitely should not be happening. And I think it just makes you more alert, doesn't it, of all these, like, things. So I was like, this is disgusting. Now, if I hadn't have realised with Marla, and I was being really, really naive, this next scene, I should have definitely, if I hadn't have got it 20 minutes in, this should have been my big clue.
And that is?
With the soap scene. So you've got him kind of with the hand, and obviously like putting it on, and he's like, oh, I'm in pain, I'm going to go to my cave, like, and feature me inner animal, because that's what he did with meditation. And he's kind of actually doing that to himself.
Yeah.
And you see that actually Tyler already has
the scar on his hand. And
it's kind of the way that they're talking, you can see that, and it's like, well, why would Tyler do that to a friend? The relationship hasn't seemed that bizarre until we get to that point, and it's like, you can see that he's kind of fighting again with himself, like, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah, conflicting.
So, you kind of see at some point, I think, that Tyler's ended up being more of the main character. The narrator seems to kind of somewhat disappear. It's like Tyler's taken over his body.
More prominent, but I guess he is the narrator, I suppose, so.
But he's like the split personality, it was kind of like 50-50 at first.
Yeah.
And then the dominating Tyler is kind of coming like 80-20 somewhat.
Yeah. And
Fight Club's booming now. And what's scary is the narrator is not actually realising what he's doing as Tyler.
No, so, especially come near the end of the last 30 minutes or so or whatever. And especially as Fight Club grows and grows, it's now becoming this Project Mayhem. A bit more like anarchy, really, than anything.
And the narrator acts like he's not aware of what that is and like why am I not a part of it. We were part of Fight Club, we did Fight Club together, you know, and I think that came off that new assignment, didn't it, when it was a case of go try and have a fight with somebody.
Yeah, just an everyday average Joe.
Yeah. But what the scene that made me chuckle was, what was his name now? Guy that dies, Bob.
Bob, yeah.
He was like pointing this water hose thing at this priest.
I don't think that was him.
Is it not Bob?
No, I think that was somebody else.
Is it not?
I'm sure. I think Bob was maybe the one in the
running around, wasn't he? Yeah.
With the thing on the back. Yeah, but there was some other person who was just doing with the hose.
And this priest was like looking at him like, "Can you stop it now? Seriously." But he was like the one that retaliated the most, which I was thinking that's quite funny actually. So it starts to get a bit more like an army.
Yeah.
And it's mischief happening. There's like all these rumours going around about Tyler only sleeps for 1 hour a night and he's like this god and he's had Botox, he changes his face every other week or something. And it's like all these
crazy rumours, yeah. Because the fact that no whispers in the underground of like where this movement's come from and everything, and these fights are popping up all over the place as well as
all over the country.
Yeah.
And all over different countries as well. So there is a part, and I've forgotten, I hope that you're going to help me brainwave with this, where Tyler says that, well, I blew up your apartment.
I think that is when, if I remember correctly, it's when he's in the car with him on the freeway or whatever, going to the crash.
Yeah, and he's like, come on, well, like, if you were going to die right now, what would you want to do?
Yeah.
Like, what would be your last thing you'd do before you die? And kind of antagonise him in a little bit. And it gets to a point where it slips out, doesn't it? And it's like, well, I didn't even know you until I was on the plane with you. So how could you blow up my apartment? And that's the bit where he's like, what? I don't understand. And you can see that this relationship is going to be going sour quite quickly. So I was quite upset when Bob died. I do, you know me, Sam the Pan Man. That's off The Lord of the Rings, by the way. Who else is there? Oh, off Game of Thrones, Sam.
Just call him Sam. Yeah, just the Sams.
And then Bob in Stranger Things. Do you remember Bob?
Yeah, he's the same actor as Sam in.
I always love a bit of an underdog. So, like, bless him, he was chubby. He was, you know.
One syllable.
Yeah,
name.
1 syllable names. I like 1 syllable names. Yeah, I like it
me.
even. Yeah, of course I do. But yours is not special because you can't spell yours backwards.
Right.
Like Bob.
You can't spell Sam backwards.
No, you can't. But you can with Bob. And obviously Bob, I had a cat called Bob. This is how much I love the name Bob. So anyone called Bob, I'm going to like this character, hopefully. I haven't found a character where they've named Bob and it's been a horrible character yet. I don't think so. Doesn't sound like a horrible, mean character's name, does it?
No.
It's like more like a jovial kind of...
Yeah.
So he does get shot in the head, and it is because he's like, well, he's not fit enough for Fight Club, really. Like, if the police are running after him, it's inevitable that eventually they're going to catch him because they do that. That's their livelihood. It was a little bit of a shame for that one. And then you kind of had this weird scene where you see that this army that Tyler's created is so alienated in a sense of like, they're like, anything Tyler says, it's like a cult somewhat, you know, like...
Are you meaning where he's like saying his name is Robert Paulson? His name is Rob Paulson. When the person dies from Project Mayhem, they're no longer nameless. Yeah, it's a bit culty.
Yeah, and it just seemed really, really... And he was getting like, kind of like looking at him like, why are you just repeating what I'm saying? I don't understand why you're being like that, you know? And he was like looking, and that was a bit like, there's something not normal in this circumstances at all. And you see, like, the narrator running away at this point, like, he's trying to run away from himself.
Mm-hmm.
Then Tyler goes aloof and he tries to follow his steps, but obviously he's trying to track his own steps.
Yeah.
Which he seems to... I feel like it's more like a dream state sometimes. He's not aware when he's Tyler.
Yeah, he's just coasting through.
And that's why he's forgetting certain things because of his insomnia. He's, like, not truly aware of what's actually going on.
Yeah. But of course, this is about the point where the audience would know, like, oh my god, I didn't realise that they were the same person.
This is where the shock factor should kick in, which I already knew 20 minutes in, which I'm well chuffed with myself. I felt so smug. Your face was a picture I literally should have taken a picture of you, because you were like, are you actually kidding me? So yeah, this is where you realise that it confirms that he is Tyler. He's got his self, and then he's got this self-ego kind of character that he acts as well. Yeah. So he split personality, and then realises he slept with Marla, because he phones her and she's like, are you actually kidding me? You know, like, she's just like, I can't handle your crap anymore, I'm just sick of it now. And then he realises he's the same person. So he's like realising that people are seeing him how he would like to be, so to speak, of what he's built up this Tyler up in his head. He's actually now realising that he is that person. However, he ends up not actually liking the fact of this character that he's been portraying in the end. So he's trying to undo all the traces of what Tyler's done.
Yeah, even though he's done a lot. Yeah.
Even though it's himself that's done it. And it's funny because he's actually stabbed himself in the own back a little bit with some of it. Like,
yeah, going back on his word of thinking, you know, like, oh no, we want to undo all this stuff. And then it looks a bit weird, doesn't it, when the fact that it's the same person that you've just been talking to.
Yeah, but
someone else.
When he's saying we want to cancel it back and we don't want to go forward, we knew you'd say that.
Yeah.
You said you were going to say that too.
Yeah.
And he's already screwed himself over.
As if it's like another person anyway.
Yeah, and they're not believing this other person.
Again, because they're in the cult. Because almost everywhere it goes now, everybody's somehow in the know of the whole situation. Like, it's free food or whatever, and even the police station near the end.
Yeah.
It's like...
That, I didn't catch that bit. I didn't think that they would have been, like, some of the policemen would have been on it as well.
No, the main one, I think he was genuine, wasn't he? But the other ones were all inside.
Yeah, and it's just like, everybody is now...
You feel safe.
No. Yeah. He literally, the only person he could trust probably was Marla.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, this little bit of schizophrenia coming in, like, where he's, like, kind of feeling more paranoid, because, like, well, I don't actually know what my egoistic Tyler's done, who he's spoken to. I don't remember these faces who know me.
Yeah.
So it must be like you're in a bit of a daze of a...
Definitely, yeah.
So, yeah, so, like, even like you said, the policemen know who he is now, and he realises that he's actually going to end up blowing up, like, all the credit card companies to make complete mayhem of everybody's credit limit going down to zero. And that would definitely mess up the economy in some sense.
Yeah, I feel like there was a reason why this was done in 1999, again, for turn of millennium. That kind of very fitting. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. You know, like, start from scratch with the new millennium.
Yeah, because it's like 2000s, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So I get where you're coming from with that, and I understand why they'd want to do that. It's a good idea to blow up all buildings, but...
Well, in theory.
If there weren't people in them, which actually there weren't
right.
apparently. But how realistic that is, that they blew up about 4 or 5 credit card companies that were all in the same vicinity.
Yeah, and no, not a single person in radius of all that. Yeah, it's
a bit weird. So he's trying to undo all of this, and then I sat there, didn't I? And you could see, like, this fight scene where he's like, Tyler's like, how dare you undo what I'm meant to be doing. And I loved the part where you could actually see what other people were seeing all the way through the film.
You mean like on the security footage where he's throwing himself down the stairs and all that kind of stuff.
It was just amazing, because you kind of get into the grips of like, oh, Tyler's like trying to kill him, but actually he's killing himself. I was like, Paul is going to die, he's going to kill himself, he's going to die. He's literally going to get to a point where he's just fighting so much with himself that he's going to have to kill himself because the other person's taken over so much.
And that's what sort of happens.
Yeah, you leave the impression that you don't know, because obviously I assume he will have died, but the way that they end it, it's like Marla and him are sat watching fireworks.
Well, the explosion's going on.
Yeah, but it's somewhat romanticised a little bit.
It's a bit, yeah. From the thing, the fact that he feels like the only way to end this whole debacle is to shoot himself, and by shooting himself in the head, it gets rid of Tyler and that whole personality just goes with it. But somehow miraculously does survive. I know it is possible to.
It was more like in his neck, wasn't it?
Very small chance that you would be able to survive a gunshot through your mouth to your head, but yeah, it's more just like
angled it right. Gone through his cheek or his neck.
But somehow managed to get through Tyler's head because you see the back of his head caved out.
Yeah.
From that, but
so in the end, obviously it's inevitable that probably will have died and ended up fighting so much with himself.
But he's not dead at the end of the film.
No, they romanticise it a little bit, but if you were going to carry on, I'd assume he would have died.
Right.
I don't assume him and Marlowe just going off into the sunset like how it kind of perceives it to be.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a song at the end.
Yeah, the Pixies, Where Is My Mind? Which
I thought was quite funny, actually kind of key to the entire movie.
Well, carefully picked for that purpose. Yeah.
Because he's just kind of tried to, it's blown up Tyler's brain.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Mm-hmm. And no wonder he's asleep because he's so drained and wants to sleep because he's trying to live 2 lives. So, I'm really glad you made me watch it. And I'm really, 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 really pleased with myself.
No, I am as well, in all fairness. Yeah, I have so much love for this film. You've got your intense storyline. You've got memorable dialogue, easily quotable. The characters are all fantastic. I especially like Edward Norton as the narrator. And it's just fantastic.
Are you pleased that I figured it out so early, or would you have rather had a story?
I don't know. In hindsight, I don't know whether, because like you say, it's good to have you have seen it as I've seen it, where I'm kind of looking a bit more focused on certain points of where the story has those moments.
Well, I think as well with me, I don't mind a spoiler. You hate them. You like to kind of discover it yourself. But I kind of like to be emotionally prepared for what I'm going into sometimes. So, like, if somebody's going to die, I'm like, yeah, tell me. Who's going to die? I need to know. And you're like, Sophie, why do you want to know this? And I'm like, because I know I'm going to get upset. And I went, so...
I think that takes some of the fun out of it, though.
No,
I know, obviously not all scenarios are fun, like, say, like someone dying, but...
No, like, if it's a good spoiler, I wouldn't want to know. But if it's something that's going to upset me, I'd rather get emotionally prepared for it. So, like, if somebody was going to die, I'd be like, yeah, definitely tell me that person's going to die. Because I quite heavily emotions towards things. My emotions do get kind of carried along in the story. Okay. So I think I'd have been annoyed again with myself. Like, how did you not see that coming, Sophie? And I'd have been a bit like, this kind of scenario again. And I've been tricked and fooled again. I think I would have been annoyed with myself a little bit. So I was dead chuffed that I'd clocked it and enjoyed it more. Because I knew that. No,
that's good. I'm glad that's worked out that way then.
So you didn't spoil it for me. If anything, I was happier.
Alright. So that then, we'll go to the scoring.
Yep, and actually, do you know, I already wrote my score down after I watched the film.
Hey.
I know, I knew what I was going to score it beforehand. So, my score is going to be a 9. It can't be a 10.
Right.
Because of the blood and glory kind of stuff that
That's fine. I was like, that,
didn't like. So it can't be a 10, but it's a solid 9.
Same as me.
Ah, high five. Not too bad, are we?
No.
I liked that. We were quite assertive. Normally we're like, don't know what to score it, but...
No, again, it's one of the top films I really enjoy watching.
I'd watch
more
it again.
More for the replay value.
There's so much replay value, even though I knew, I still feel like I could dissect it and see something else the next time and be like, oh, well, actually, you could have actually figured it out in this scene. And I like things like that.
And little audio cues with what people say and stuff like that. You pick up on more and that kind of stuff. So, no, it's happy with that scoring.
I am happy with the choice. This was like, we did the Google kind of pick a number between 1 and 100.
This is based off a spreadsheet I made of films for Sophie to watch, by the way.
And this was where we'd got Fight Club from, and I was like, I've never seen it. But I'm really glad I have.
Yeah, no, I think it's quite important. It's one of those ones that like top 250 on IMDb or something to see, so.
I'd probably say if I had to pick between Shutter Island and Fight Club, I'd probably pick Shutter Island. I prefer the era and it's not as gruesome
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, sure.
But either one, if you're wanting to kind of get your mind a little bit out of the normal state.
Get your mind involved, I guess.
Yeah, but kind of step out of your own mind's box of normal, mundane, and kind of, it's not like anything is the same. So you kind of have to understand from a different perspective of people's brains don't always work how yours would.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like sometimes you can watch a film and you're like, yep, okay, we know that that's going to happen. Yep, they're going to get married at the end.
Yeah, predictableness, whereas...
And weirdly, I've noticed I'm starting to enjoy more of these films.
Yay!
You're rubbing off on me.
This is all good. Yeah, nothing but good stuff. Yeah.
But maybe next week, can we try a little bit more light-hearted?
Yeah, I think we can try that. We'll see what we can come up with. But
yeah.
For now, that's it for the time being.
Thank you so much for listening to us.
You can find us on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, and wherever else you might get your podcasts from. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.
And we'll speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time. Take care.
Take care now. Bye.
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 Bye.